All right, welcome to the apologetic response to the objection to God from morality. I want to make sure you understand three basic aspects of this objection. Number one, understand what the objection claims. Second, recognize what must be true in order for the objection to be legitimate. And third, know how to answer the objection in a way that is faithful to Scripture and therefore consistent with Christian belief. Okay, let's get on to the argument. The practice of slavery is absolutely immoral. The Christian God approved of slavery. Therefore, the Christian God is immoral. Now, this is an outrageous and blasphemous charge against God. Before you answer this argument, you have to think rightly about the argument. Think like a Christian about this argument. What is true about this argument? It is utterly blasphemous. That's what is true about this argument. Now, from an argument perspective, technically speaking, it's a valid argument. The conclusion flows from the premises. But it is an unsound argument because the premises are false. And so let's get into now how a Christian should think about this argument. Do not attempt to spin the Scriptures by saying that the Bible doesn't paint a positive picture, or at least an accepting picture, of the practice of slavery. This is no time for political correctness. Understand that this objection is a tactic. It is not a genuine objection. In other words, the objector is not looking for you to help them believe that Christianity is reasonable, that it's true. That's not what's going on here. They don't want to believe that Christianity is true. They do not want to submit to the demands of God, to the demands of Scripture, and therefore they will grasp at whatever objections they can in order to continue, according to Romans 1, to suppress the knowledge of God that they have been given. So, with that in mind, begin with the objector's ground for absolute morality. They have made the claim that slavery is immoral. God condones slavery, therefore God's immoral. They're going to have to defend that claim. You're going to make them defend that claim. Second, you're going to proceed to the Christian view of God. What does the Bible teach about God? Not what does the atheist think the kind of God that exists. That is not what we're defending. And we're not defending the kind of God that they've heard other people claim exists. You need to understand what the Scripture teaches about God, what Christianity believes about God, and defend that view of God. Don't worry about what other people have claimed about God. Next, move to the Christian view of man. Now, this is going to be very offensive to an unbeliever. Man is created. He is utterly dependent on God for everything. And yet, at the same time, man is sinful. He is totally depraved. There isn't a component of the human nature that is free from the effects of sin. Okay? So this is something that you want to drive home, and certainly keep that in your mind as you're having this exchange with the objector. So the question then is this: does God's apparent approval of slavery involve contradiction in the Christian worldview? So here we go. If absolute morality, then absolute and transcendent personal moral mind. In other words, if there is such a thing as absolute morality, then there must be such a thing as an absolute transcendent moral mind. However, the objector is going to say there is no such thing as an absolute transcendent moral mind. It doesn't exist. Okay, well, if that's the case, then there can be no absolute morality either. Since the objector has no basis for absolute morality, he or she has no basis for believing that slavery is absolutely immoral. Now, the objector, to be sure, is going to try to establish an absolute ground, a ground, I should say, for absolute morality. You will have to deal with that. That would be a little bit more advanced, and I can't get into that here because this is designed to be a very short, quick hit. Suffice it to say, it is something you're going to want to look at. There's a lot of theories for the intelligibility of the human experience of morality. They all fail. The only position, the only worldview that can rationally defend and make intelligible the experience of human morality is the Christian worldview. Know that. Now, you may have to do some digging and reading and so forth in order to understand the contours of that field and all the different arguments and attempts and so forth that have gone on for thousands of years now. But just know this: if it is true that Jesus Christ is Lord of all, then it is also true that the only ground for absolute morality is God. Know that. Therefore, the Christian can discard the objection as an obvious logical absurdity. The objection reduces to absurdity because it simply cannot be the case that all life originated by way of some impersonal cause or an impersonal origin, and also it be true that there is such a thing as absolute morality. So much so that I am able to condemn the practice of slavery. Those two views, those two beliefs are contradictory. They are inconsistent with one another. Therefore, the objection reduces to absurdity. So let's talk a little bit about how you might defend the Christian worldview. First of all, if God is holy, then God punishes sin. And so the second premise, God is holy, right? If God is holy, God punishes sin. The Christian worldview says God is holy. Therefore, right, quite naturally, God punishes sin. If human beings are sinners, human beings have no rights where God is concerned. We really have to get our heads around this. A lot of American Christianity, with all the nonsense going on in that version of Christianity, has destroyed this fact, and it will not be easy for you to say this to someone, but you must find the courage to say it because it's what Scripture teaches. Okay, it's what the Bible teaches. It's what Christianity affirms. It's what we believe. Human beings are sinners. Therefore, human beings have no rights where God is concerned. If human beings have no rights where God is concerned, and if God is holy and must punish sin, then God is perfectly within his right to punish men with slavery or any other form of punishment he deems right. Okay? Now, the goal of this quick apologetic moment has been to help you identify those obvious issues with the objection to God for morality that has become very popular in modern culture. It should be noted, once again, that this objection is the worst kind of blasphemy imaginable. Keep that in perspective. Keep that in the back of your mind when you're dealing with those kind of people who make these sorts of outrageous claims against the Lord of all creation. This is a very serious issue. Okay? So number one, you now understand that this objection to God is based on how the objector defines morality. You recognize also that in order for the objection to be legitimate, absolute morality must exist, and this requires an absolute and transcendent moral mind with rights to impose his morality on human beings. You know that God is infinitely perfect and sovereign, and that man is totally depraved, a totally depraved sinner who has no right to expect anything but the harshest judgment from God. Now I say this to you: be courageous in your presentation and in your defense of Scripture. God demands obedience. He does not beg for it. Now, for more information, I'm developing a website that deals with theological and apologetic issues like this called Reformed Reasons. You can go to it at www.reformedreasons.com. Still a lot of content that has to go up on that site. but we're taking a very deliberate approach, trying to keep things small in terms of content, but the big stones, if you will, on the big mountains. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that you have gained something from this and enjoyed it. Again, my name is Ed Dingus. Visit www.reformedreasons.com. Thanks for your time.